Continuing our Powerhouse series this morning, looking at witnessing in power of the Spirit with words, works, and wonders. And we just heard the story of Elijah and the widow from 1 Kings chapter 17. And so today we're thinking about how we can be a powerhouse with our works, and we're thinking specifically about the gift of hospitality. And hospitality is just how we show welcome and look after others. So I wondered, turn to the person next to you, what's the best hospitality you've ever experienced? What's the best hospitality you've ever experienced? Turn to someone near you, share that together. So I had a little bit of time to think about this during my week, and there were a few occasions that I could think of where the gift of hospitality had been used really well. But the one that came to mind the most obviously was with my nan when I was younger. If we went to my nan's house, normally the whole family would turn up in one go. And what she would do is literally, and I kid you not, empty the entirety of her kitchen cupboards, her fridge and her freezer, and put this huge, great spread of food out on the table. Now, for me, that was amazing because in my household, we were told to eat what was put in front of us. And so when the whole table was there, it was brilliant. There was so much to choose from. But the reason that I thought of it when I was thinking about the gift of hospitality is for my nan. She wanted to make sure that everybody who came to her house felt welcomed, that there was something for everybody around that table. If someone said their favorite food was chicken, the next time we went, we would have chicken. If someone said, oh, I really love this dessert, the next time we went, that's the dessert that we would have, because she wanted everyone to find their place and feel welcomed. And this morning, as we think about hospitality, I want to talk about having a heart that is willing to be poured out. When I think about hospitality for myself now, I tend to jump straight to the practicalities. So when I was younger, it would have been my mum checking that I had tidied my bedroom if people were coming round, or the playroom. It would be me asking, have we got my favorite snack in? It would be me trying to work out how long my friends were coming around for and what we could fit into that time slot. If it was warm enough and not raining, then we would go outside and play football. And I would plan through, okay, my friend's coming, they've got roughly like an hour and a half before tea. What can I fit in that time slot? How can I host my friend well? And as I have got older, it has become about finding space in the diary, finding a night of the week where there is enough time for me to get home from work before the person is coming round to actually try and cook something. And it also becomes now, is my bathroom clean? Have I hoovered the house? Does it look like a complete mess? And does it smell like 3-year-olds, which it currently does most of the time? You see, often when we think about hospitality, we can try and have all the right ingredients to do hospitality well. Now, you see, I'm not really a very good cook, and I am not a baker. But I can make an all right milkshake. And so as this morning we think about the ingredients we need for hospitality to work well, I thought I would make a milkshake. Thankfully, it's not absolutely roasting today, otherwise this ice cream would have melted. But as we think about the ingredients that we need to do hospitality well, one of the things we definitely need is time, right? If you want to host people well, you want to welcome people into your home well, you're going to need to make space to have people round. You're going to need to make time. So I'm going to put in my first ingredients for my milkshake in there. The other thing that you might want to think about, not everybody does necessarily, but you might want to think about how your house looks presentable. So in my house, I'm not really the one that does this. My husband, Ben, he likes to hoover everything before people come round. And we like to think about maybe tidying the toys away a little bit in our household. The other thing that you might want to think about when it comes to hospitality is offering something nice. I've got some chocolate here. Often we might think, okay, who's coming around? Do they have any dietary requirements? Do I need to buy something in particular? You might want to think about a really nice thing to offer. Now, in my household, I must confess, we tend to go with trying to buy something nice in because neither my husband nor I are very good cooks. But I know some people in this room are amazing at doing homemade cooking. And I really admire you for that. Another thing that you might want to think about when it comes to hospitality is the atmosphere. You might want to think about what you want to do when people come round. You might want to think about maybe what games you want to play if you're a little bit younger. If you're a bit older, you might want to think, okay, how can I make a nice atmosphere? Maybe put some music on in the background, potentially have some candles out. Admittedly, in my house, we put candles out just so that it doesn't smell like nappies. And then the other thing that you might want to think about is how people feel welcomed when they come to your house. How can you show that you're listening really well? Now, you see, this milkshake here, I mean, anyone actually want to come try it? You're very welcome, as long as you're not allergic to anything milk-based. Mia, it's yours. Feel free to keep hold of it. But this milkshake, so sorry, Rob and Hannah, if that was a bad idea. You see, those ingredients there, if you looked at them, they have the potential to make a really nice chocolate milkshake. But right now, they're just individual ingredients thrown into a glass. And in its current form, it's not reflecting the full potential of what it could be. You see, often we can have all the right ingredients for entertaining people well. But the gift of hospitality isn't about being a kind or a good Christian. When we look at the ingredients in the power of the Spirit and with the power of the Holy Spirit in mind, we can begin to see the potential of the ingredients of hospitality beginning to witness to how great God is. The widow in the story today, she shows hospitality, and it's not about the stuff that she offered, but the heart with which she offered it. The widow only had enough flour and oil left just for herself and her son to make something really small. And yet she poured out all that she had to make something for Elijah. And once she had poured it all out, quite recklessly, lovingly, faithfully, willingly, obediently to what Elijah had asked, then there comes a moment that she discovered neither the jar nor the jug emptied. Something miraculous had happened. But she chose to pour out all that she had to offer before experiencing the refilling of that jar and that jug. And that is the heart of hospitality. A heart that's willing to be poured out. It's a picture of who God is. It's offering all that you have and pouring out all that you have to those around you. And that allows you to witness to the power of the Holy Spirit and to who God is. See, when we begin to reflect more of God in our hospitality, it offers the potential for God to move miraculously, like in this story. See, when we have experienced God's love, when we've experienced him pouring out for us abundantly, faithfully, generously, then we begin to reflect that God in the way that we do things and in the gift of hospitality. Now, underneath your seat, you should find a cup and a pen. I want to invite you to grab that. And we have the benefit as a church family of knowing God's faithfulness and his goodness and his abundance. And I'm sure many of us might have experienced that in our own life. So I want to invite you on the inside of the cup. It might be a little bit tricky, but on the inside of a cup, maybe write or draw one word or maybe a few words that describe the experience you have of God's love. Describe in maybe one or two words the experience that you've had of God's love. It might be the word abundant. It might be that he's poured it out. It might be that you've known his generosity. It might be that you've known his provision. And if you're not sure if you've experienced God's love, you might want to write down a question that you want to ask him. You see, as we become more aware and remind ourselves of the way that God has poured himself out for us, then our hearts become more willing to be poured out for other people around us. And so now as we take a look at those ingredients again that make hospitality work well, we can begin to think about how those ingredients might reflect more of who God is. And so as I add this ice cream in, we might want to think about how we can make space in our week to have people over, but to think about what it might look like for us giving time sacrificially in a way that isn't always convenient for us, in a way that sometimes means that we have to kind of get on with it and grit our teeth and say, okay, I've said yes to this person coming over. I'm going to do my best to be as fully present as possible. And as we think about making space for people, we might want to think beyond the fact that our house looks presentable. And as we pour ourselves out, we might want to think about how we can, in our own homes, make people feel at home, make people feel welcomed and loved. Can we be a church who think beyond the people it might be easy to have round to our homes? Maybe we might want to be a church that think about who is new that I can make space for, who is new that I could welcome into my home. Or maybe the people that feel unwelcomed, maybe for the people that might find church a bit difficult. And as we think about what we offer, can we offer something? It's not about the quality or the quantity. That's not what happened for the widow. She poured out all that she had. She gave not her very best because that's what she had in her cupboards. She gave her all. She didn't pull out all the stops to make an amazing meal. She didn't go to a great effort to cook something amazing. But what she did do is she poured out all that she had, and God did something miraculous. You see, when our hearts are willing to be poured out, and we begin to reflect more of who God is, as we invite the Holy Spirit to come and use us to witness with the gift of hospitality, things can be transformed. Individual ingredients can be used in a way that demonstrate God's power and his goodness and his abundance. Our hospitality can begin to reflect more of who God is. So as we pour ourselves out, this might be a slightly lumpy milkshake, but it'll taste better than the other one. As we begin to pour ourselves out, witnessing to who God is, then the potential for what God can do changes, because there is an atmosphere of faith, and there is then the potential for the miraculous. You see, as we give of ourselves, as we pay full attention to the people in front of us, listening really well, offering hospitality, pouring out our all in the way that we do it, we begin to reflect who God is. And I wonder what would happen if we had the expectation that people wouldn't just feel welcomed by us when they come into our home, but would be welcomed by the God that we love. What if we had the expectation that every time we invite someone into our homes, maybe for a coffee, maybe it's for a meal, maybe it's inviting someone round to play, what if we had the expectation that they're not just experiencing welcome by you and your family, but by God? And so as we've thought about the gift of hospitality this morning and having a heart that is willing to be poured out, I want us to think really practically about it as we finish. And so I want to invite you on the outside of your cup to write down 1 or 2 ways that you might practice the gift of hospitality over the next couple of weeks. So you might want to write down somebody's name that you'd like to invite round to your house. You might want to challenge yourself and give yourself the challenge of inviting a new person or a new family every month from church over the next few months. You might want to write down something you want to make. You might want to write down something that you want to play with your friends when they come round. But write down 1 or 2 things that you could do to practice the gift of hospitality over the next couple of weeks. And so I want to invite you to take, we're going to use our cups a bit later on in our service to pray, but I want to invite you to take your cup home and put it on your kitchen table or wherever you normally might eat your meals in your home, and use it as a prompt for God to speak to you about the gift of hospitality. Use it as a prompt of actually then inviting and doing those things that you've written on the outside of your cup. But we're gonna pray now and invite the Holy Spirit to come and fill us. So if you would like to stand.